In today's session, we look at the check performance command within ARUtils. Now, just as a quick introduction to this, the check performance command relies on a performance advisor class that's made available to developers of Revit applications. So this advisor class checks for specific faults within a document and gives you information about things that could be improved on. So this command actually is part of what the purge all command relies on and part of what the warning messages class relies on. So let's have a look at what commands are available through the check performance command. So it's here under the utils pull down, and when you go into the command you will be given the range of possible checks that can be done to check your project for specific performance issues. So these are all performance issues that Revit developers have identified as issues within your project. This is just an interface to let you access those checks. Okay, so let's just look at these particular rules. So view clipping is disabled. You may generate graphics for extraneous elements. So this one, I've got to admit, I don't think is the greatest of commands or checks, because it'll bring up a lot of your plans and other things. Interior categories are enabled in a 3D view. Once again, not one of the really great ones. View detail level is too high. So, for example, in this sort of view, you probably, where you're looking at a building in a large area, if you have anything other than course set, it will probably tell you that this view has too high a detail level. Now, some of the more interesting ones are multiple non-overlapping loops. So let's run that particular one, and we'll say check, and it's now brought up a list of filled regions that are in my project. So we'll just double click on one of those, and it will now take us to the view that that particular thing occurs in. And you can see here we've actually got a dashed line that's basically a filled region, and it's all been put into the one boundary item. So Revit checks this, the performance advisor checks, and it reckons this is not a good thing to have in a project. The other thing to point out here is that that's actually a hidden filled region. So, you know, it makes very little sense to have a filled region like this that's not actually being displayed. So it's quite interesting to see that there are in fact quite a few items that are hidden, that are filled regions. At some point, maybe they were useful, maybe they were copied from another level, but we now have all of this hidden filled detail information. So let's just go back to our found items. Alright, we'll go out of that and we'll go back to check performance. We'll try the sketch is too complex. So a sketch with more than 500 elements in it may take a significant amount of time. So let's just say check. Unfortunately, we don't have any of those within our project. So how about sketch area too large? So a sketch with an area greater than 200,000 square feet may slow down selection. So we'll say check. Once again, not found. So these are good things. Host contains too many inserts, too large a family file, many unused nested families. So let's say check those. So we've got a couple of families, well, 3 families, and we could now have a look to see whether there are ways of improving what's in these families. Let's go to the 2x swing, and this will just open that family in edit mode. So as you can see, it's taking a bit of time to open up, and you can see here we've got quite a bit of detail in this particular family. It doesn't mean that it's a bad family, it just means that Revit thinks it's a bit too detailed, has too much stuff in it, and therefore maybe it should in fact consist of a number of families and used in the appropriate spot. That's something that you'll still have to decide, but the performance advisor has flagged it as an issue. Okay, so let's just close out of that family, get back to our main model. So we'll go into check performance again, and we can just say check none so that no items are ticked, or we can say check all and it will scan all of those things. So back to check none. So we haven't done overlapping walls, so let's check that. And you can see we've actually come up with a list of items that are in fact overlapping. So if we double click on one of these, and we get there's no open view. Alright, so it's managed to identify those items in a plan view. Always a bit hard to tell exactly what it's picked up on, but let's say I'd rather see it in 3D. So alright, and it takes us to a 3D isolated view of those items, and we can then determine should these walls have been joined, but we can investigate it, and you can see that we do in fact have an overlap here. So we're now aware of the issue, but we would need to then decide how we want to resolve that. Of course, one of the good things about the implementation of the performance checker within ARUtils is that you can always just go back to the list of items and double click on the next pair or the next item that's causing an issue, and it can once again bring you into this view, and in this case we'll say no, and you can see here we've got that overlap, and we could decide what we're going to do about that. It looks as though the sensible thing would be to draw this wall back to align with the face of that wall. Okay, so you can see now that being able to just go in and explore the faults quickly and easily in a 3D view or a 2D view really does make this quite powerful. Okay, so let's just go back into our performance checker, and we'll just run these last few options. We can skip the project contains unused families and types because that's pretty much what would come up if we did a purge. So we'll just say check, and so we've got some duplicate instance problems, which is interesting. because there's 221 of those. So we'd really need to check what's going on there, why is it happening. We've got some model lines here, or room separation line is not joined. Problem elements, count 90. So let's just click on one of these and we'll say, no, don't bother. Alright, so you can see here we've got a room separation line that really doesn't seem to be joining anything. We've got rooms being displayed and they're by and large correctly referenced. So we can probably just go delete. So we can slowly get rid of those issues or have a more fulsome understanding of why those particular rooms aren't extending as far as we expect them to. So as you can see, it's quite a powerful command that lets you go through a project, identify issues, get to those issues, and then lets you try and work out what you're going to do to rectify that performance issue. So I hope that's given you an insight into the ARUtils check performance command, and that hopefully it can help you in your work. Thank you very much.